DM Dango here with another review from the DM's Guild. This time we're looking at initiative trackers. Now if I could only keep track of my party... So, initiative trackers. What are we talking about here? Well, from the DM's Guild, we have a couple of different products available. We also have some other ones that have come out from outside. A couple of Android apps that exist, a system that uses some paper tents, and another one that uses just some basic hardware supplies that you can find in any store, a meter stick and some clothespins, for instance. There's also some other ones that are available. If you've seen either Critical Role or if you've seen the C Team, they use a completely different system entirely. Now I'm going to go through all of these, but I thought I'd mention them at the start. So first, let's look at the stuff that you can get from the DM's Guild. As first option, you have this little guy here. And basically what you've got is, these are the tent-based systems. Basically, they sit on the top of the DM screen. If I show you here, so I've got my DM screen here. This is my Tomb of Annihilation one from Gale Force 9. It's not one of the official ones from Wizards, but it's quite nice, has some really good stuff inside of it. But this is how they work. You take your little tent here, and you sit it on this side of it, and this side faces the players, and this side faces the players, and this side faces the DM. Now on the side that faces the DM, you have the HP, the AC, the initiative, and passive perception. Now those four are generally what you need to kind of work out whether your party is surprised. So passive perception kind of deals with surprise and kind of like how, if something's sneaking up on them, who's in the quote-unquote surprise round, which in reality doesn't really exist in terms of a rule set, but it's a way of kind of dealing with things. But it gives everything, the DM, a good idea of what their players are doing. There's a couple things that I think that little one is lacking, and it's also quite small. Now, moving on from that one, you have an upstage from that. You have this guy here, which contains a lot more information. It contains your player name, your character name, their class, their alignment, their faction, which I don't know whether or not I would use, but there's that. A spot for AC, a spot for HP, their passive insight and their passive perception, along with their save DC, so their spell save DC. So if they're a wizard or a caster or any class that actually happens to be using magic, it's useful to have that little box there as well. I like this one. The only thing I do a little bit of a downside is it's quite tiny, and for my bad eyesight as I'm getting older, it might be nice to just be a little bit bigger. So, but that's easily remedied as you download all of these from the DM's Guild and just print them out and get them a size to whatever you want. So I'd probably size these up a bit for that reason. Finally, we have this one. Now this is the one I use in my home game, and in fact, this is one of the characters from my home game, Hawthorne. On the player side, you have a nice picture, a nice little spot where you can put one, a nice little spot for the name. And on the DM side, you have the armor class, spell save DC, passive perception, and passive insight. So it's lacking some of the things like alignment and the other ones from the second one I showed, but it has a lot more. I think in terms of what I get the best out of this is I'm a very visual learner, so it helps me to have this picture here to say, this is who this character is, this is what they look like, this is what race they are. And it just helps me, not as a DM, but it helps me as a player to kind of make that correlation. I also like the names and everything else, and it's quite large. The only thing I didn't like about it is that the front and back are in two pieces, just due to the nature of the tracker. It means that you have to do them in two pieces. And what I did is I took two pieces of cardstock and glued them together to kind of give them enough rigidity. But as you can see from this one, there's quite a lot of points where I've not done it very well. And lining up, it was a little tricky. If I did them again, I would probably do a better job, but that's something to bear in mind. Now, on to other initiative trackers. So there's a tent-based system that uses a really interesting way of kind of setting things up so that people kind of know where they are in the initiative. So if you think you create 12 of these little tents, each with a number from 1 to 12, and as you're calling out initiative, you hand out the one in order as to where they are. So it gives a very good indication of everyone knows who's going next and in what order. They go, oh, that person's next and they're next and I'm number 2, so I'm going second, and he's going 4th and I'm going 5th. And it gives a really good kind of way of kind of battle managing things. I'm not sure how it would play out, and it definitely relies on kind of a live game. So all of these are more for live games rather than online play. For online play, most of the systems out there, Roll20 and Tabletop Simulator and Fantasy Grounds, all have an initiative tracker built into them, and they're all very similar. They're all similar. They all just kind of list the characters and their number and their stats, their initiative number in order. It's rather simple, but they have other ways of tracking the other stats. Now, on to other. There's one more system that I saw I got from a Twitter follow, which is he basically took a meter stick, cut it down to between, I think it was 0 and 24 on the markers, cut them in half, cut 2 of them and cut them next to each other and put a little piece of wood in the middle, and then use clothespins to mark where a character was on the initiative tracker, and they had those players put their own clothespins where they were. I thought it was really clever, actually, because it makes you put it in the middle and everyone can see instantly where they are, and then they can do it themselves, so they don't have to go, oh, well, you're before this person. And the DM can also put his one and go, well, they're there and there and there and there. Really clever, really nice little system. There's a couple of Android apps as well, and there's quite a lot of them. If you just search initiative tracker on the Android system, they all have kind of the same functionality. Really, really easy to use and set up. You kind of set up your party, and then you go, okay, well, and then you can pull in monsters that have various things. And it actually has, a lot of them will have all of the monsters from the monster manual in there, so you know what their initiatives are. And it gives you the same information a lot of these paper ones do. Now, in addition to this, if you've seen the C Team, or if you've seen Critical Role, you'll see that they use different systems altogether as well. The C Team has a plastic turnover that has a really nice engraved image of a character on the front of it, and it has they're colored plastic, and they sit on the top of the DM screen, and they're really, really nice, and they look really, really premium. Now, in terms of what's on the information on the back, I had a look at their website. You can get pretty much anything you want printed on there, but given that it's a printed, an etched style thing, I really wouldn't want to print on that thing unless it's something I knew was never going to change. So, yeah, there is that. Now, in Critical Role, they have a flag system. They basically have a flagpole, and they drop the initiative tracker down on depending on where they are in the order, at least in Critical Role Campaign 2. I'm not sure how Matt tracked it before. And if you've watched High Rollers or Dice Camera Action, I believe they just write their initiatives down on a piece of scratch paper, which is perfectly fine. Do whatever works best for you. Now, personally, my personal favorite is this guy. It has to do with a lot of the way I learn, the way I pick up things, and the way I attach information. I also like the fact that on the backside for DMs, this has everything a DM needs and has to ask a player for. Because it always slows down combat when a DM has to say, what do I need to save against? What's your spell save DC? Tell me now, please. Or what's your passive perception? Or what's your armor class? This is everything that a DM is rolling against. And in addition, has that nice spot for the picture. The only downside is like I said before, is printing them off. Now, in terms of the ones from the DM scales that I'll give ratings for, the smallest one, this guy here, I think it's lacking a lot of information if for me, for a lot of the other ones. So I think it's probably a 3.5. The medium-sized one is a 4. This guy is also a 4, only because I can't do a 4.5. And I think it's not fair to give the benefits of it because I'm a specific type of learner, as it were. So I think some people would prefer the one with the more words on it. I prefer the ones with the larger pictures. So thank you. That's all on initiative trackers this time. Please do remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below if you think I've missed anyone. Did I miss your favorite system? Did I miss your favorite way of tracking initiative? Let me know. Thank you, and peace out.